Hello, my friend. You are here, and that means you have allowed yourself to pause for a moment in the middle of a life filled with constant thoughts, emotions, and movement, and that pause alone is already enough for now. This is Zenlight Wisdom, a very quiet and gentle space where you do not need to try to become someone else, where you do not need to understand anything more than what you already know, and where you do not need to think too much or analyze what is happening inside you. Here, there is no right or wrong, no success or failure, and no destination you must reach. There is no pressure to improve yourself or fix anything. There are only very soft reminders, shared with the simple intention of helping you slow down, breathe a little deeper, and gently release some of the weight that has been tiring your mind. If at this moment you feel tense, worried, overwhelmed, or simply heavy at heart, you do not need to change that feeling right away. You do not need to push it away or replace it with something better. Just listen. Just stay. Just allow yourself to be here exactly as you are. The Buddha's teachings in this video are not meant for you to remember, analyze, or hold on to. They are not instructions you must follow. They are simply here to give you permission to rest. You may listen while fully awake, or you may listen as your body slowly becomes sleepy. You may listen until the very end, or you may drift off at any moment, and all of that is perfectly fine. There is no need to force yourself. There is no need to try. There is nothing you must do. Just allow your mind to soften, to settle, and to find a little more peace. Each day, little by little. In this life, many people do not suffer because of material lack, nor do they suffer because of great upheavals or dramatic events. They suffer because of something very quiet, very familiar, and repeated every single day. And that is thinking too much. Thinking about what has already happened, thinking about what has not yet come, thinking about other people's words, thinking about one's own mistakes. The more we think, the heavier the mind becomes. The more we think, the more exhausted the heart feels. Yet most of us do not realize that it is precisely this continuous stream of thoughts that is the deepest reason the mind is never truly at peace. The Buddha once taught that the greatest suffering of human beings does not come from external circumstances, but from a mind that cannot settle. When the mind does not rest in the present moment, it wanders endlessly between the past and the future. The past is already gone, yet we keep pulling it back, replaying every detail, every mistake, every sentence, and in doing so, we hurt ourselves again and again. The future has not arrived, yet we have already painted countless scenarios, countless fears, countless anxieties, and we worry about things that have not even happened. And so, we live without truly living, we breathe without ever feeling our own breath. There are moments when you have done nothing wrong, yet your heart still feels heavy. No one blames you, yet your mind is still restless. Nothing serious is happening, yet your thoughts will not stop. That is when you are being carried away by the stream of thinking. The Buddha called this a scattered mind, a mind that cannot stay in one place. And when the mind cannot stay, even if you are sitting in a quiet room, inside it feels as crowded as standing in the middle of a busy marketplace. People often believe that thinking a lot means they are careful, responsible, or thoughtful about the future. But the Buddha taught that most of these thoughts do not solve problems at all. They only make the mind more tangled. Thinking at the wrong time, in the wrong way, and in excess, becomes a burden. It is like carrying a bag full of stones on your back, and then wondering why you are tired. It is not that the road is too long, but that you refuse to put the bag down. There is a truth that is very gentle, yet very deep. Most of our suffering does not come from reality itself, but from the way we interpret reality. A careless remark from someone else, if we do not dwell on it, simply passes by like the wind. But if we hold on to it, analyze it, interpret it, and assign it all kinds of meanings, then from one small sentence it becomes a great sorrow. A small mistake in the past, if seen with wisdom, is merely a lesson. But if we replay it over and over in our minds, blame ourselves, and torment our own hearts, that mistake becomes a chain that binds the mind for many years. The Buddha did not teach us to control everything, nor did he teach us to think our way through every problem. He taught only one simple thing: to clearly see the nature of the mind. The mind is like the surface of a lake. When the wind arises, the lake ripples. Thoughts are the wind. If we chase the wind, blame the wind, or fight against the wind, the lake will never become still. But if we simply observe quietly, without interference and without grasping, the wind will naturally settle and the lake will return to its original clarity. Many people ask how to stop thinking so much, but the Buddha taught that we should not rush to stop thoughts. Begin instead by noticing that you are thinking. Just noticing, without changing anything, already allows the mind to slow down. It is like when you are walking very fast. The moment you realize you are rushing, your steps naturally slow. Mindfulness is always the first step toward peace. In daily life, there are moments when we are eating, yet the mind is thinking about work. Moments when we are lying down to rest, yet the mind runs back to past events. Moments when we are with loved ones, yet the mind is far away. The Buddha called this living in forgetfulness. And when we live in forgetfulness, we lose many peaceful moments that we could otherwise touch. Thinking too much does not make you a better person, it only makes you more tired. Worrying does not make the future better, it only makes the present heavier. This is something many people realize only after they are completely exhausted. But if you are listening to these words now, perhaps your mind is looking for a place to rest. And if you allow yourself to pause, even for a moment, not for long, you have already begun to step out of the spiral of thinking. The Buddha taught that human life is already short. If we spend most of it worrying, regretting, and fearing, we make it even shorter. Each time we think too much, we take away a little of our own life energy. But each time we let go of a thought, we give our mind a little more space. You do not need to become a perfect person to be at peace. You do not need to solve every problem before you are allowed to rest. You only need to understand that there are many things that do not need to be thought about right now. Many things can be left for later. And many thoughts do not need to be believed. Right in this moment, as you are listening, try to feel your breath. There is no need to adjust it, no need to control it. Just know that you are breathing. That alone is enough to let the mind slow down a little. And when the mind slows down, thoughts naturally lessen. This part is not meant to teach you anything profound. It is only a very gentle reminder that if you are tired, it may not be because life is too hard, but because you have been thinking too much. And if you allow yourself to let go a little right now, peace is not far away. It is right here, in the breath you are breathing. There is something very important that the Buddha saw more than 2,000 years ago. Human beings do not truly suffer because of what is happening, but because of what is happening in their own minds. Two people can live in the same circumstances, go through the same event, yet one remains calm while the other suffers endlessly. The difference is not in the situation, but in how each person's mind receives and interprets it. When the mind is at peace, even a turbulent world cannot cause suffering. When the mind is chaotic, even ordinary conditions become a burden. In the Buddha's teachings, there is a very famous image, the first arrow and the second arrow. The first arrow represents what is unavoidable in life: illness, loss, failure, unpleasant words from others, things that go against our wishes. The second arrow is the thoughts, resentment, fear, and self-torment that we shoot into ourselves after the event has already occurred. The Buddha taught that even an untrained person must endure the first arrow, but a person without mindfulness will wound themselves again with the second arrow. And most human suffering comes from this second arrow. Many people spend their entire lives trying to change circumstances, change other people, change life itself, forgetting that if the mind does not change, suffering will return even when circumstances improve. Some believe that having more money will end their worries, yet once they have money, they worry about losing it. Some believe that being understood by others will ease their pain, yet once they are understood, they fear betrayal. Some believe that reaching a certain position will bring peace, yet once they reach it, they fear being replaced. And so the mind never stops, because it always finds a reason to think. The Buddha called this a mind that does not know contentment, a mind that constantly looks outward for safety. But true safety does not lie in external things, it lies in the mind's ability to rest. When the mind cannot rest, it clings to anything for support. And when that thing changes, the mind panics. That is why some people live in very good conditions, yet remain deeply anxious, while others live simply and feel light and at ease. Overthinking often begins with the desire to control. We want things to go our way. We want others to understand us. We want the future to be certain. But life is impermanent. Nothing stays the same. Nothing is guaranteed. When we cannot accept this impermanence, the mind continuously creates thoughts in search of certainty in an uncertain world. The more it searches, the less it finds. The more it thinks, the more tired it becomes. The Buddha taught that a wise person does not try to eliminate all storms from life, but learns to make the mind as steady as a mountain. When waves come, they know waves are coming. When waves go, they know waves are going. The mountain does nothing. It simply stands. The ordinary mind is different. At the sight of waves, it panics. At the hint of wind, it becomes anxious. The moment a thought arises, it immediately chases it, analyzes it, judges it, concludes, and entangles itself. Some thoughts sound very reasonable, very correct, very responsible. But if you observe carefully, you will see that many of them are simply repetitions of fear. Fear of loss, fear of being wrong, fear of being abandoned, fear of falling, fear of not being good enough. And each time fear arises, the mind begins a new cycle of thinking. Without mindfulness, you are carried away without even realizing it. By the time you stop, you only feel exhausted without understanding why. The Buddha did not teach us to fight against thoughts, because the more we resist them, the stronger they become. He taught us to look directly at them, like watching clouds pass across the sky. Clouds are not the sky. Thoughts are not you. But because we fail to see this, we often identify ourselves with our thoughts. Whatever we think, we believe. We feel sad because of a thought, angry because of a thought, afraid because of a thought. Yet in reality, a thought is only a phenomenon that arises and passes away, comes and goes with no fixed essence. When you begin to see that thoughts are just thoughts, not absolute truth, you have already stepped one foot out of suffering. You do not need to chase them away. You do not need to analyze them. Simply notice their presence and let them leave on their own. Just like when you hear a sound, you do not need to hold on to it, nor do you need to push it away. The sound comes and then fades. Thoughts are the same. Many people suffer because they believe they must resolve every thought before they can be at peace. But the Buddha taught that peace does not come after thoughts have stopped. It comes when you are no longer controlled by thoughts. Thoughts may still arise, but you no longer run after them. It is like standing by the side of the road watching cars pass instead of jumping into the traffic. The cars keep moving, but you are not swept away. In everyday life, there are moments when you feel completely fine, and suddenly an old thought returns, a painful memory, a hurtful remark, an unresolved worry. If you are not mindful, you immediately sink into it, reliving old emotions and old pain. But if you remember the Buddha's teaching, you will realize that what is happening is only a thought. It is not the present moment. The present is still calm. Only your mind has returned to the past. The Buddha taught that what has passed should be allowed to pass. Not because the past is unimportant, but because holding on to it only makes the present heavier. The future has not yet arrived. Do not rush to bring it here. Not because the future does not require preparation, but because worrying does not prepare you better. Preparing with mindfulness is different from worrying with thought. One prepares with a calm mind, the other lives in constant unease. There is a very simple truth that many people fail to see. When the mind is calm, wisdom naturally arises. When the mind is agitated, no amount of thinking will reveal a way out. It is like muddy water. The more you stir it, the murkier it becomes. Only when you let it be does the sediment settle and the water become clear. The Buddha taught us to learn how to let the mind settle instead of constantly stirring it with thought. If you are listening to this now, perhaps you feel a little lighter, not because your problems have disappeared, but because you are seeing them from a different distance, and that distance is where peace begins. You do not need to fully understand all of the Buddha's teachings right now. You only need to remember one simple thing. Suffering does not lie in circumstances. It lies in a mind that thinks too much. And if you learn to let go of unnecessary thoughts, even in your current situation, you can find peace. This part does not ask you to change immediately. It is only a gentle reminder that whenever you feel tired, you can pause and ask yourself, what am I thinking about right now? And is this thought truly necessary? Just asking that question is already a step out of the cycle of suffering. Many of us have once believed that we were born to suffer, that we have a weak mind, that because we worry a lot, we can never live peacefully like others. Some people look at their lives and sigh, believing that this is simply who they are, that overthinking is their nature, their personality, their unchangeable fate. But the Buddha saw very clearly that overthinking is not destiny. It is only a habit of the mind that has been repeated for too long. When the Buddha spoke about suffering, he never labeled it as fate. He never said that some people are born to suffer and others to be at peace. He pointed out that suffering or peace depends on how the mind functions. And how the mind functions depends on the habits that are cultivated each day. When a habit is repeated long enough, it becomes so familiar that we mistake it for who we are. But in truth, it is only a stream maintained by unconsciousness. From a very young age, human beings are taught to think in order to learn, to compare, to judge, to prevent risks. Gradually, thinking becomes the main tool we use to approach life. But the Buddha taught that thinking is only a tool, not a place to live. When we overuse a tool, it harms us. Like a knife, used at the right time, it is helpful. But if you hold it in your hand all the time, sooner or later you will cut yourself. Overthinking often begins with something very small, a passing thought, an unanswered question, an incomplete feeling. Without mindfulness, the mind immediately clings to it, then expands, analyzes, and interprets. From one small thought, 10 more arise. From a vague worry, countless scenarios are created. And in a short time, the mind falls into a spiral that even we cannot control. The Buddha called this the mind operating on habit. Without mindfulness, the mind automatically follows old patterns. It is like a dirt path that has been walked so many times. Each time we think, we walk that path again, and the more we walk it, the deeper it becomes. Eventually, Even a small trigger will cause the mind to slide down the old path without our consent. What the Buddha wanted us to see is this: whatever is formed can be transformed. Habit is not fixed nature. If overthinking is a habit, then a different habit can be created. But to do that, we must first see clearly that overthinking is not me. It is only a state of mind operating through momentum. Many people identify themselves with their thoughts. They say, "I am a worrier. I think too much. I cannot stop thinking." But the Buddha taught that you are not your thoughts. You are the one who is aware of those thoughts. Between the observer and the observed, there is always a space, and that space is where freedom begins. When you begin to see thoughts as phenomena arising in the mind, you will no longer fear them so much. You will no longer rush to suppress or destroy them. You understand that the more you resist, the stronger they become. The more you reject them, the more they return. The Buddha did not teach us to fight the mind, but to understand it. Overthinking is often accompanied by a sense of urgency. The feeling that something must be done immediately, an answer must be found, a decision must be made. But many times there is no answer that needs to be found right now. And many decisions, if made while the mind is agitated, only complicate things further. The Buddha taught that when the mind is not calm, do not rush to act. Let the mind settle first, and wisdom will show the way. There is a very subtle point in the Buddha's teaching that few people notice. The mind cannot be forced into calmness. If you command yourself, "Stop thinking," you create yet another thought. And when you fail, you blame yourself again. And so the cycle of suffering continues. The Buddha never demanded the impossible. He only guided what aligns with the natural nature of the mind. The mind is like a child. If you scold it, it resists. If you neglect it, it becomes chaotic. But if you patiently observe without excessive interference, it gradually settles. Thoughts are the same. When you do not chase or feed them, they naturally weaken, not immediately, but surely. In modern life, people are constantly stimulated. Information, images, sounds, comparisons, expectations. Before the mind can rest, it is pulled into something else. And when there is nothing to do, the mind turns back on itself, replaying old stories and old worries. Gradually, overthinking becomes the default state. But the Buddha taught that no matter how noisy the world is, you can still create a quiet space within if you know how to return. To return does not mean escaping life. To return means coming back to what is truly happening. One breath, one bodily sensation, one sound in the present moment. When the mind has an anchor in the present, it wanders less. And when it wanders less, thoughts naturally become fewer. There will be times when you notice that even though you do not want to think, thoughts still come. That does not mean you have failed. It only means the old habit still has momentum. Like a fan that has been spinning for a long time, when you turn off the power, it still keeps spinning for a while. But if you do not turn it back on, it will stop. What matters is that you do not keep feeding it with energy through attention and identification. The Buddha taught that each time you realize you are thinking, without blaming yourself, without judging, that is already mindfulness. And each moment of mindfulness is a new seed planted in the mind. The seed of awakening, the seed of lightness, the seed of letting go. At first it may be very small, but if it is planted consistently, it will grow and gradually replace old habits. Some people ask, how long will it take to stop overthinking? The Buddha never answered with a timeline, because each person has different tendencies and conditioning, but he always emphasized this. You do not need to stop thinking in order to be at peace. You only need to lessen the identification with thought, and peace is already present. Peace is not the absence of thought, it is the absence of being carried away by thought. When you understand this, you become less harsh toward yourself. You stop expecting a perfect state. You accept that thoughts may still arise, but you no longer allow them to dominate your entire life. You begin to notice spaces of rest between streams of thinking, and it is in those spaces that peace lives. The Buddha taught that there is no path leading to peace. Peace itself is the path. Each time you let go of an unnecessary thought, you take another step on that path. Each time you return to the breath, you return home. There is nowhere far to go. There is no need to become someone else. You only need to think a little less, and life becomes much lighter. If you are still listening here, still breathing, still present, that means your mind is gradually settling. And that is the most important thing. This part is not meant to force you to change, but to help you see that overthinking is not a life sentence. It is only a habit. And any habit, when seen with mindfulness, can be transformed. Many people hear the teaching, "Do not think too much," and immediately fall into a major misunderstanding. They assume that if they do not think, they will become passive, weak, unable to plan for life. Some fear that if they do not think constantly, they will make mistakes, be taken advantage of, or fail to protect themselves. But the Buddha never taught people to become blind or unconscious. He did not teach us to completely extinguish thought. What he taught, very subtly, is this: do not let thought lead your entire life. Thinking in itself is not bad. Through thinking, human beings learn, understand, and adapt to life. The problem begins when thinking is no longer held within awareness. When thinking becomes an automatic current that drags the mind from one past to another future, it stops being a tool and becomes a burden. The Buddha taught that wisdom does not arise from endless thinking, but from clear knowing in the present moment. There is a great difference between mindful thinking and unconscious thinking. Mindful thinking is when you know you are thinking, know why you are thinking, and know when to stop. Unconscious thinking is when you are swept away without realizing it, and by the time you stop, the mind is already exhausted. The Buddha did not require us to block every thought. He simply invited us to learn how to recognize thought and not identify with it. Many people, when they first begin practicing the Buddha's teachings, try to force the mind to become quiet. They sit down, close their eyes, and command themselves, "Stop thinking." But the more they command, the more they think. The more they try to stop, the more the mind resists. Then they feel disappointed and believe they are not suited for the path. But in truth, they have only misunderstood the method. The Buddha did not teach us to fight thought. He taught us to look at it gently and directly. When a thought arises, if you immediately cling to it, analyze it, and judge it, you have given it more energy. But if you simply recognize, a thought is appearing, and do nothing more, that thought will dissolve on its own. It is like a small wave on the surface of water. If you do not stir it, the water becomes still by itself. But if you try to flatten the water by stirring even more, you only make it more turbulent. The Buddha taught that the human mind is like a monkey swinging from branch to branch, jumping quickly from one thought to another. If you chase that monkey, you will be exhausted. But if you stand still and observe, the monkey gradually becomes tired and sits down. Observing is not indifference, it is non-interfering awareness. This is the key point that many people overlook. Some thoughts are necessary, thinking for work, for study, for caring for family. But there are countless unnecessary thoughts that only repeat fear, regret, and anxiety. The Buddha taught that a wise person knows the difference between necessary thought and excessive thought. Necessary thoughts are used and then released. Excessive thoughts are noticed and not fed. But without mindfulness, we do not see this difference, and we allow every thought to flood the mind like a raging river. Much human suffering does not come from thinking too little, but from thinking too much about what cannot be changed. Thinking about words that are already spoken, choices already made, someone who is no longer beside us. These thoughts bring no solution, yet they consume enormous life energy. The Buddha taught that if a thought does not help you act better in the present, then it is an unnecessary thought. Some ask, if I do not think too much, how will I know I am on the right path? The Buddha answered through his own life. He did not live through constant calculation. He lived through moment-to-moment awareness. When the mind is awake, you know what you're doing, where you are going, and whether you need to adjust. That kind of awareness is deeper and far more accurate than endless thinking. In the Buddha's teaching, there is an important point to remember. Thinking tends to move toward the past or the future, while mindfulness always stays in the present. When you are truly in the present, thoughts naturally settle, not because you force them, but because they have no ground to cling to. Like a flame, when there is no more fuel, it goes out by itself. There are times when you work with full focus and forget everything around you. In that moment, you are not thinking excessively, yet you are doing very well. That is the state of mindfulness. The Buddha taught that peace and effectiveness are not opposites. On the contrary, when the mind is less tangled, action becomes clearer. When the mind is calm, wisdom has space to appear. Many people live in the misunderstanding that if they do not think too much, they will become indifferent to life. But the Buddha taught that indifference is not the absence of thought. It is the absence of presence. A person can think endlessly and still be indifferent because they are not truly here. Meanwhile, a person who thinks less but is deeply mindful can be very profound and full of compassion. Do not think too much does not mean abandoning everything. It only means you do not allow the mind to be dragged away by unnecessary streams of thought. You still work. You still care for loved ones. You still face difficulties, but you do all of it with a mind that is less tangled, lighter, and clearer. The Buddha taught that when the mind is confused, return to the body. When the body is felt, the mind wanders less. One inhale, one exhale, one step, one sensation that is present. These small things are anchors that hold the mind in the present. And when the mind stays in the present, thoughts naturally decrease. Some thoughts are very persistent, repeating for many years. That is not because you are weak, but because you have been used to feeding them. The Buddha taught that you do not need to hate those thoughts. You only need to stop feeding them with attention. Each time you return to the present, you are withdrawing energy from the old habit. This part does not require you to reach any special state. It is only a gentle reminder. Thoughts are part of life, but they are not the master of life. You can think when needed and let go when not needed. And that flexibility is the wisdom the Buddha wished to transmit. If you are listening to this and feel your mind slowing down, it is not accidental. It is because for a moment you are not being pulled away by thought. And in that moment, you are touching what the Buddha called peace. Nothing loud, nothing dramatic, only a natural and quiet relief. Among all of the Buddha's teachings on how to end suffering, there is one practice that is very simple, very close to us, yet also very profound: returning to the breath. The Buddha did not teach that you must think everything through before you can be at peace, nor did he teach you to escape life in order to find calm. He taught something very gentle: return to your own breath. Because the breath is always here in the present moment, and when the mind is here in the present, thoughts naturally settle. People overthink largely because the mind is not here. When the body is in one place but the mind runs far away, thought follows thought without any stopping point. The breath is the thread that reconnects body and mind. When you know you are breathing in and know you are breathing out, in that moment, the mind cannot wander too far. Not because you force it, but because it has found something to lean on. The Buddha once said that the breath is the most loyal friend of a human being. Whether you are happy or sad, successful or failing, healthy or exhausted, the breath is still there, quiet and steady. Yet most of us live our whole lives without truly meeting our own breath. We breathe, but we do not know we are breathing. We live, but we do not know we are living. And without that knowing, the mind automatically wanders in endless streams of thought. Overthinking often makes people search for support outside themselves. Some look for it in praise, some in recognition, some in the certainty of the future. But those supports are never stable. As soon as circumstances change, the mind shakes again. The Buddha taught that the breath is an inner refuge, not dependent on any external condition. When you return to the breath, you return to yourself. Many people believe that working with the breath is something advanced and difficult. But the Buddha taught that nothing is more natural than breathing. You do not need to learn how to breathe. You have been breathing since the day you were born. The only thing you need to learn is to be aware of the breath. Aware without interfering, aware without controlling, simply knowing the breath is coming in and the breath is going out. When the mind is used to overthinking, returning to the breath may feel difficult at first. You may notice that thoughts keep coming. You may find that the moment you become aware of the breath, another thought appears. But that is completely normal. The Buddha did not teach that thoughts will immediately disappear when you return to the breath. He taught that each time you realize you are thinking and return to the breath, you weaken the old habit. Thoughts are like a strong current of water. The breath is like an anchor. Without an anchor, the current will carry you away. But when you drop the anchor, even though the water still moves, you are no longer swept away. The breath may not make thoughts disappear right away, but it helps you stop being dragged by them. And that in itself is a great liberation. The Buddha taught that when the mind is confused, do not rush to find answers. When the mind is tired, do not force it to think more. Stop and breathe. One slow, deep, conscious breath can do more than hundreds of thoughts in a panicked state. When you breathe slowly, the nervous system also slows down. When the nervous system slows down, the mind becomes less tense. And when the mind becomes less tense, thoughts naturally become fewer. There are times when you do not need to do anything at all. Just sit still and breathe. Do not solve problems. Do not analyze right and wrong. Do not plan. Just breathe. And within that simplicity, many things begin to adjust on their own. The Buddha taught that action is not always better than stopping. Sometimes stopping is the wisest action. The breath also teaches the lesson of impermanence. Each inhalation is different from the one before. Each exhalation cannot be held. When you truly feel this, you cling less. You begin to see that if even the breath cannot be held, why do we try to hold on to thoughts, emotions, and memories that have already passed? Realizing this not through logic, but through direct experience, is a very deep transformation. The Buddha did not teach people to breathe in any special way. He only taught, breathe naturally. When breathing in, know you are breathing in. When breathing out, know you are breathing out. That is all. Yet this simplicity is difficult because the mind is used to running away. And precisely because of that, if you can do it even for a few seconds, you have already stepped far outside the stream of thought. Some people ask, if I only breathe like that, what does it solve? The Buddha answered that the breath does not solve problems in the way thinking usually does. The breath solves the root of the problem, an unsettled mind. When the mind is unsettled, every solution becomes distorted. When the mind is calm, the solution naturally reveals itself. The breath does not give you the answer, but it gives you the state in which you can see the answer. Overthinking often comes with tension in the body, raised shoulders, a clenched jaw, shallow and rapid breathing. When you return to the breath, the body gradually relaxes. And when the body relaxes, the mind finds it easier to let go. The Buddha taught that body and mind are deeply connected. Caring for the body is also caring for the mind, and the breath is the bridge between them. There are moments in life when you do not need to understand why you suffer. You only need to know that you are suffering and allow yourself to breathe. No reason, no analysis, just breathe. And in that permission, you are practicing compassion toward yourself. The Buddha taught that compassion is not only directed outward, it must first be directed inward. As you listen to this, you may be breathing a little more slowly. You may feel your body becoming a little lighter. If so, let it happen naturally. No need to hold on to it. No need to desire it. When the breath comes, know it comes. When the breath goes, know it goes. That is all, and that is the path the Buddha walked and the path he pointed out for us. This part does not require you to practice immediately. It is only a gentle invitation. Whenever you find yourself thinking too much, remember that you can always return to the breath. No conditions, no preparation. As long as you are breathing, you still have the chance to stop. In daily life, there is a very familiar phrase many people use: never mind, or let it be. But very few truly understand the depth of these words. Some say never mind with discouragement, with resignation. Some say it out of helplessness, because they see no other way. But in the Buddha's teaching, let it be does not carry such negativity. On the contrary, it is a clear expression of wisdom and mindfulness. The Buddha did not teach us to control everything in life. He did not teach us to forcefully correct everything that goes against our wishes. He taught that some things require wholehearted effort, but some things require knowing when to stop. And let it be is stopping with understanding, not avoidance and not indifference. Much human suffering arises not because events are so big, but because the mind refuses to let go. A word that has passed, yet we keep remembering it. Something already done, yet we keep replaying it. A person who has left, yet the mind still clings. This refusal to let it be makes one thought lead to another and leaves the mind with no place to rest. The Buddha taught that if something has already happened and cannot be changed, then continuing to think about it only causes more suffering for yourself. Let it be, in the spirit of the Buddha's teaching, does not mean abandoning life. It means not resisting what could not have been otherwise. Some things happen against our wishes. Some people behave differently than we hoped. Some outcomes do not match the effort we put in. If we keep trying to find reasons, analyze right and wrong, or force others to change, the mind will remain tense. But when we say, let it be, with the understanding that life is impermanent, the mind becomes much lighter. The Buddha taught that impermanence is the nature of all things. Nothing lasts forever. Nothing stands still. When we fight impermanence, we suffer. When we accept impermanence, we find peace. Let it be is that acceptance. Not acceptance in helplessness, but acceptance in awareness. Clearly knowing that some things are not within our control, and therefore they do not need to be carried in the mind. Many people misunderstand and believe that letting it be makes them weak, easy to disadvantage. But the Buddha taught that the truly weak person is the one who cannot let go. The truly strong person is the one who knows how to release at the right time. Letting go is not losing. It is refusing to let the mind be dragged down by what is not worth it. When you can let go, you preserve your energy for what matters. In life, there are things that, if you keep thinking about them, only increase suffering. For example, other people's judgments. You cannot control their thoughts. You cannot live their lives for them. But if you allow their words to echo in your mind, you will hurt yourself again and again. The Buddha taught that in such cases, let it be is the way to protect your own mind. Let it be also does not mean you learn nothing from experience. On the contrary, when the mind is no longer swept away by emotion and thought, you can look back with clarity. You can take the necessary lesson and then put everything down. If you have not let go, you will only see the pain and miss the lesson. The Buddha taught that wisdom arises only when attachment has softened. There are times in life when you have tried your very best. You have done what you could, yet the result is still not what you wanted. If you keep blaming yourself, blaming others, blaming life, you will never be at peace. But if you can tell your own heart, I did my best, let it be, then within those words there is self-forgiveness and compassion for yourself. The Buddha taught that no one can give you stability if you do not allow yourself to be at peace. Let it be is also a way to stop the endless stream of thought. When the mind begins repeating an old story, an old worry, you can gently recognize it and say to yourself, thinking about this more will not solve anything. Let it be. Not with irritation, but with understanding. And when you say it like that, you are cutting one link in the chain of thought. The Buddha taught that overthinking comes from the mind wanting to control outcomes. But life does not operate according to personal preference. When you understand that, you become less rigid. You do what needs to be done, and then you leave the rest to conditions. Let it be, in this sense, is not giving up. It is releasing what is not yours to control. There are relationships in life that cannot be held, even if you have tried very hard. If you keep asking why, keep thinking, if only I had done something differently, you will never escape sadness. But if you see things through the lens of impermanence, you will understand that some meetings come only to teach you something, not to stay forever. When you understand this, let it be arrives naturally. The Buddha taught that a wise person does not try to hold what is already leaving. They cherish it while it is present, and they release it when the time has come. That is not coldness, it is understanding life. When you understand life, you no longer overthink what has passed. You give your energy to the present, where you can still live, breathe, and love. Let it be also helps us think less about what has not yet happened. Much human anxiety comes from an imagined future, worrying about what has not arrived, fearing scenarios that may never occur. The Buddha taught that worry does not make tomorrow better. It only makes today heavier. When you see that, you realize many worries are unnecessary. And then you can gently say, that has not happened. Let it be. What matters is that let it be is not just a phrase spoken out loud, but a state within the mind. You do not need to say it in words. You only need to understand inwardly that this is no longer worth carrying. When you understand it that way, the mind naturally releases, and when the mind releases, thoughts naturally stop. The Buddha taught that each person should carry in the heart only what helps them live better. Whatever only makes you more tired and heavier should be put down. Let it be is that gesture of putting down, not forcefully, not dramatically, just gently placing it down, like setting down an object you have held for too long. If you are listening to this, you may be thinking of something that has made you overthink for a long time, perhaps a person, perhaps a decision, perhaps a worry. You do not need to solve it right now. Just try telling your own heart, I have carried this long enough. Let it be, and see what happens inside you. It may not become peaceful immediately, but it will certainly become lighter. The Buddha taught that peace does not come from having everything, but from letting go of what is unnecessary. When you let go, you do not lose anything truly important. You only lose the burden. And when the burden is set down, the path ahead naturally becomes easier to walk. This part is not teaching you to let it be about everything in life. It is only inviting you to learn how to let it be at the right time, in the right place, letting go of what cannot be changed, letting go of what has already passed, letting go of thoughts that only make the mind more tangled, and keeping what is truly necessary for the present. Among all the causes of overthinking, thinking about the past is the deepest and most persistent. Some things happened a long time ago, years, even a lifetime, yet each time you remember them, the pain feels as fresh as yesterday. A sentence that was spoken, an action that was done, a decision that cannot be reversed, a person who is no longer beside you. All of it belongs to the past, yet in the mind it remains vivid, present, constantly summoned back. The Buddha saw this clearly and taught that if we do not learn to release the past, we will never truly live in the present. The past, by itself, has no power to make us suffer. It becomes a source of suffering only when we keep bringing it back through thinking. Each time we revisit what happened with regret, blame, resentment, or self-torment, we hurt ourselves one more time. The Buddha taught that this suffering does not come from the event itself, but from our refusal to let it rest. The past is like a scar. If you do not touch it, it does not hurt. But if you keep rubbing it, it will never heal. Many people live their entire lives in torment over what they did not do, what they did not say, the chances they missed. They keep asking, if only I had chosen differently, if only I had understood sooner, if only I had been stronger. But those questions do not return them to the past, and they do not improve the present. They only make the mind heavier and heavier. The Buddha taught that the past cannot be changed, but the way we look at the past can. In the Buddha's teachings there is a very clear line: do not grieve the past, do not worry about the future. This is not advice to avoid or deny what happened. It is guidance toward liberation. Grieving the past does not make the past different. It only darkens the present. When we return to the past with resentment, we are living against the truth of life, because the truth is that time only moves forward. Many people confuse learning from the past with living in the past. Learning from the past is looking back with clarity, taking the necessary lesson, and then setting it down. Living in the past is repeating the old story in the mind again and again, along with the old emotions, the old pain, the old regret. The Buddha taught that a wise person learns and then releases, while an unmindful person learns but does not release. So suffering continues. Some mistakes in the past make people unable to forgive themselves. They carry guilt, self-blame, self-judgment for years. Even if their outer life has changed, inside they are still not at peace. The Buddha taught that if you keep holding on to past mistakes, you will never have the chance to renew yourself. Forgiving yourself is not denying the mistake. It is accepting that you were once unaware, once wrong, and from there learning to live with greater awareness. The Buddha taught that all beings have experienced ignorance. Even when they do wrong, it is not because they want suffering, but because they have not seen clearly. When we understand this, we become less harsh toward ourselves and toward others. Your past does not define who you are in the present. It is only part of the journey. If you keep using the past to bind yourself, you will never be able to step forward. Some memories of other people hurt deeply, a betrayal, an abandonment, a wound that goes to the core. Each time you remember, the chest tightens and the heart grows heavy. The Buddha taught that holding those memories is like holding a burning coal. The one who gets burned is not the other person, it is you. Letting go is not saying it did not matter. It is refusing to keep hurting yourself because of it. Letting go of the past is not the same as forgetting. Forgetting is a function of the mind. Letting go is a choice of wisdom. You may still remember, but it no longer hurts. You may still know, but you are no longer pulled away. The Buddha taught that when a memory appears, look at it like a cloud passing through the sky of awareness. Do not chase it and do not push it away. Simply see it and let it pass. Many people fear that if they let go of the past, they will become ungrateful, no longer cherishing what they once had. But the Buddha taught that cherishing is not the same as clinging. You can be grateful for what came, what taught you, what walked with you, and still release it when it no longer fits. Letting go does not erase the value of the past. It only returns it to its rightful place. There are times in life when you did everything you could at that moment, with the understanding and capacity you had then. If you look back now and see you could do better, that only shows you have grown. But if you use today's understanding to punish your past self, you are being unfair to yourself. The Buddha taught, use wisdom to illuminate, not to condemn. Letting go of the past also means letting go of your old images of yourself. Some people once succeeded and live forever in old glory. Others once failed and live forever in shame. Both are forms of attachment. The Buddha taught that each moment is new. If you keep carrying old images, you will not see what is new and real right now. The past is like a road you have already walked. You can turn back and look to see how far you have come and what you have learned. But if you stand there looking forever, you cannot continue forward. The Buddha taught that the path of liberation is not behind you. It is in the step you take now. Only this step is real. The steps that are gone are only memory. Sometimes memories arise suddenly, without warning. You are fine, and then an image, a sound, a scent brings back an old story. If you are not mindful, you will be pulled immediately into old emotions. But if you remember the Buddha's teaching, you will recognize, this is only a memory, not the present. Your present is still safe. Simply recognizing that means the past no longer completely controls you. The Buddha taught that to release the past, you must first be fully present in the now. When the mind is truly here, the past has nowhere to cling. You do not need to chase away memories. Just return to what is actually happening. One breath, one bodily sensation, one sound in the space around you. These small things are anchors that keep you from being pulled backward. Letting go of the past does not happen in a single day or in a single moment. It is a process. Some days you release very gently. Some days memories return with great force. That does not mean you have failed. It only means the old conditioning is still there. The Buddha taught, be patient with yourself. Each time you recognize a memory and do not follow it, you have taken one more step. This part does not ask you to erase everything that happened. It only invites you to look at the past through the eyes of wisdom and compassion. Compassion for yourself, compassion for others. When compassion is present, self-torment decreases. And when self-torment decreases, thinking naturally becomes less. If you are listening to this, perhaps there is something from your past that you still have not been able to release. You do not need to solve it right now. You only need to recognize that you are no longer living in the past. You are here. You are breathing. And that alone is already a very great beginning. Among all the kinds of thinking that exhaust human beings the most, thinking about the future is a quiet but heavy kind of thinking. It is not as loud as the pain of the past, but it is persistent, continuous, and it clings deeply to the mind. People worry about tomorrow, worry about what has not happened, worry about what might happen, and even worry about scenarios that exist only in imagination. The Buddha saw clearly that most of this worry does not make the future better, it only makes the present heavier. The future has not arrived yet, it has no shape, no certainty, no solid existence. Yet in the human mind, the future is often painted in vivid detail, colored with fear, anxiety, and craving. Some worry they will fail. Some worry they will lose something. Some worry they will not be good enough. These worries are not based on what is actually happening now. They are based on assumptions. The Buddha taught that when we live by assumptions, we create suffering for ourselves. Many people believe that worrying is a sign of responsibility. They think that if they do not worry ahead, they will be careless. If they do not think a lot, they will not be prepared for the future. But the Buddha pointed out something very important. Preparing with mindfulness is completely different from worrying with fear. A person who prepares with a wakeful mind acts clearly, is fully present, and knows when to stop. A person who worries lives in constant tension and confusion, and often makes decisions driven more by fear than by wisdom. The Buddha taught that worrying does not make tomorrow better. It only makes today more tiring. When you bring the future into the present through thought, you live one suffering twice. You have not met the difficulty, yet you have already hurt in advance. You have not lost anything, yet you have already feared in advance. And if it truly happens, if it does, you will have to face it again. This is why so many people feel exhausted, even when their lives are not necessarily harsh. In the Buddha's teaching, there is a very profound point. The present moment is the only place where you can live and act. The future is only the result of many present moments joined together. When you live fully in the present, you are planting good seeds for the future. But when you only worry about the future and forget the present, you miss the only opportunity to make tomorrow better. Some people wake up each day already carrying worry for the days ahead. Worry about work, money, health, family. These worries pile up, leaving the mind with no rest. The Buddha taught that when the mind lives continuously in the future, it loses the ability to feel the small joys of the present. A meal, a breath, a quiet moment becomes faint because the mind is elsewhere. Letting go of future thinking does not mean living without plans. It simply means not allowing your mind to be dragged away by what has not happened. You can still plan and prepare, but you do it with mindfulness, and then you set it down. After you have done what needs to be done, you do not keep carrying the plan in your mind like a burden. The Buddha taught that a wise person works wholeheartedly, but does not bring work into sleep. The future often frightens people because it is uncertain. But that uncertainty is the nature of life itself. Nothing guarantees that tomorrow will unfold as we imagine. When we try to find absolute certainty in an impermanent world, we will always be disappointed. The Buddha taught that instead of searching for certainty in the future, find steadiness in the mind. When the mind is steady, even if the future changes, you can still stand firm. There are times when worry about the future becomes very strong, especially during unstable periods, when work is unclear, when relationships are uncertain, when health begins to decline. In those moments, the mind easily paints the worst-case scenarios. The Buddha taught that when worry appears, return to what is truly present. You are breathing, you are alive, you still have the ability to act. Just recognizing that, worry loses some of its power. The Buddha also taught that many future worries are, in essence, fear of losing control. People want to know everything in advance, want to guarantee that everything will go their way. But life does not operate according to personal desire. When you accept that some things are beyond your control, you worry less. Not because you stop caring, but because you understand what is your part and what belongs to conditions. Letting go of future thinking is also learning to trust your own capacity, trusting that when difficulty comes, you will have enough strength to face it, trusting that you do not need to solve everything right now. The Buddha taught that each moment carries the wisdom appropriate to that moment. You do not need to bring tomorrow's wisdom into today to solve today's concerns. Some worries repeat every day, even when there is no new information. That is not preparation, it is a habit of the mind. The Buddha taught that if a thought does not lead to a specific action in the present, then it is not a necessary thought. And when you see that, you can gently set it down, without arguing, without pushing it away. Letting go of the future also means letting go of excessive expectations, expecting everything to go according to plan, expecting you will never fail, expecting others will never change. These expectations create immense pressure. When reality does not match expectation, the mind hurts. The Buddha taught, do your best, but do not cling to outcomes. Whether outcomes arrive or not depends on many other conditions. When you truly live in the present, you will see that many future worries naturally dissolve, not because the future becomes clearer, but because you no longer carry it. You are here, you are breathing, you are present. And in that moment, there is nothing you need to worry about. The Buddha taught that worry is a form of mind-created suffering. It is not the nature of life. When you see that, you no longer identify yourself with worry. Worry comes, you know it comes. Worry goes, you know it goes. You do not need to become worry. If you are listening to this, you may be thinking of something in the future that troubles you. You do not need to solve it right now. Simply recognize that your present is still okay. You are still breathing. And in that breath, you can find a very real space of peace. Letting go of future thinking is not a grand decision. It is a small choice, repeated many times throughout the day. Each time you notice you are worrying and return to the present, you let go a little. And all those small releases add up to a great lightness. This part does not require you to never worry again. It only invites you to look at worry through the eyes of wisdom. When you see clearly, you are no longer led by worry. And when you are no longer led, you have more space to live each day fully. Among the deepest causes that make people overthink, there is one very quiet yet extremely powerful cause: not knowing contentment, never feeling enough. When the mind does not know enough, it always turns outward to seek more, want more, compare more. And when it always turns outward like that, it never truly rests. The Buddha saw this clearly and taught that contentment is not a lack of ambition, it is the foundation of peace. People often believe that if they have just a little more, then they will finally be at ease. More money, less worry, more success, less anxiety, more recognition, less loneliness. But in reality, once they obtain what they desire, the mind rests only briefly, and then begins a new cycle of wanting. The Buddha taught that if the mind does not know contentment, even if you hold the whole world in your hands, you will still feel lacking. Overthinking largely arises from comparison, comparing yourself to others, comparing the present to the past, comparing what you have to what you do not yet have. Each comparison creates a new story, a new worry, a new insecurity. The Buddha taught that comparison is a very subtle form of suffering. It does not hurt instantly, but it prevents the mind from ever being truly at peace. When you see someone surpass you in some way, if the mind does not know contentment, thinking begins, why are they better than me? What do I lack? What must I do to match or surpass them? And whether you achieve it or not, the mind still does not stop, because there will always be someone else to compare with. The Buddha taught that the road of comparison has no end point. Contentment does not mean stopping growth. It simply means you do not trade your peace for endless wanting. You can still learn, work, and move forward, but you do not place your happiness inside the outcome. When you do your best in the present and accept what you have, the mind becomes much lighter. The Buddha called this living in harmony with conditions. Many people live their whole lives afraid to rest, afraid to pause, afraid to be at ease, because they fear that if they stop, they will fall behind. But the Buddha taught that pausing is not moving backward. Pausing is to see clearly where you are going, and whether you need to continue in that way. If you never stop, you will never know whether you have enough. Not knowing contentment also makes people think endlessly about what they do not have, and forget what they do have. Someone has health but worries about not being rich. Someone has family but feels sad about not being as successful as expected. Someone has enough food and shelter but feels anxious because they are not recognized. The Buddha taught that when the mind looks only at what is missing, what is already enough becomes invisible. Contentment begins by seeing what is basic and real. You are still breathing. You are still alive. You still have the ability to feel. You still have today. For many people, these are things they no longer have. But because they are familiar, we treat them as ordinary. And when we treat them as ordinary, we stop feeling enough. The Buddha taught that gratitude is the door that leads to contentment. When you truly feel grateful for the small things present, the mind naturally demands less. And when the mind demands less, thinking becomes less. You no longer have to constantly think of how to get more, be more, achieve more. You begin to slow down, to feel more deeply, and to rest more fully in the present. Not knowing contentment is also a reason people worry about the future. Fear of not having enough, fear of falling behind, fear of losing what they have. But the Buddha taught that this fear does not come from reality. It comes from a mind that does not know enough. When you see that right now you have enough to live, to breathe, to continue, the future becomes less frightening. Some people only realize they had enough after they lose something, but while they still had it, they could not see it. The Buddha taught that wisdom is not realizing after loss, but seeing while it is still here. When you can see enough while you still have enough, you will not be filled with regret later. Contentment also helps people release the past. When you accept that what happened is part of the journey and that you have matured enough to continue, you no longer return to blame or torment yourself. The Buddha taught that each person walks their own path at their own pace. Comparing your journey to others only makes the mind more tangled. The Buddha pointed to a very deep truth. It is not because we have little that we cannot feel enough. It is because we do not feel enough that we always see ourselves as having little. When the mind focuses on lack, no matter how much is added, it still feels lacking. But when the mind knows contentment, even a simple life can hold peace. Contentment does not come from theory, it comes from honestly observing your own life. When you see that each time you crave one more thing, your mind becomes tighter and more tired, you begin to ask, is this truly necessary? And the moment you begin to ask that question, you are stepping onto the path of wisdom. The Buddha taught that peace is not the state of obtaining everything you want. It is the state of no longer being pushed by endless wanting. When you are no longer pushed, the mind becomes calm. And when the mind is calm, you realize that many things you once believed were necessary are not as important as you thought. Sometimes, simply allowing yourself to be enough in this very moment makes thinking stop naturally. You do not need to force it. You only need to acknowledge, right now, like this, it is enough. Not enough for your whole life, but enough for this moment. The Buddha taught that if it is enough for this moment, then peace is already here. Contentment is also a way of loving yourself. When you constantly demand that you must be more, better, more successful, you place enormous pressure on the mind. But when you allow yourself to be enough, to rest, to be as you are practicing compassion. The Buddha taught that no compassion is truly deep if it lacks compassion for oneself. If you are listening to this, try looking at this present moment. You are sitting, you are listening, you are breathing. You do not need to go anywhere. You do not need to achieve anything. Just be here. And if you allow yourself to feel that this is enough, you will notice your mind becoming much lighter. This part is not inviting you to abandon dreams or effort. It is inviting you to place peace as the foundation before you continue. When the foundation is stable, you can go very far without exhaustion. But when the foundation is in a lack, you become tired quickly, even before you have gone far. The Buddha taught that the person who knows contentment is the richest person, not because they have a lot, but because they do not feel lacking. And when there is no lack, thinking no longer needs to run outward in search. It stops. And in that stopping, peace appears naturally. Finally, after many reminders, many perspectives, many reflections, what the Buddha wants us to realize is not a lofty philosophy, but a very simple truth. We do not need to think so much anymore. Life does not demand that we carry so many burdens in the mind. Most of what exhausts us does not come from living, it comes from thinking too much about life. The Buddha did not teach people to avoid suffering. He did not teach us to search for some faraway place to be at peace. He taught that peace appears the moment the mind is no longer being pulled away. When we stop chasing the past, stop worrying about the future, stop comparing, stop craving without end, then even in this ordinary moment, peace is already here. Many people spend their whole lives searching for peace, but they search in places that cannot be held, in success, in recognition, in controlling everything. But when those things change, the mind becomes uneasy again. The Buddha taught that there is only one place where peace cannot be taken away, a mind that rests in the present. When the mind is here, you do not need anything else to be at peace. Resting in the present is not a special state. It is not excitement, and it is not emptiness. It is simply full presence, knowing you are breathing, knowing you are sitting, knowing you are listening. That is all. Yet it is precisely this simplicity that many people have forgotten throughout their lives. The Buddha taught that everything is impermanent. Joy will pass, sorrow will pass, even thoughts, no matter how strong, will pass. If we understand this deeply, we will no longer cling tightly to anything, clinging to joy and fearing its loss, clinging to sorrow and sinking into pain. We simply let everything come and go, like the in-breath and the out-breath. Many people fear letting go because they believe letting go means losing. But the Buddha taught that letting go does not make you lose anything truly important. Letting go only makes you lose the burden. When the burden is set down, the road ahead becomes lighter. You still live, you still work, you still face life. But you do all of it with a mind that is less tangled. Letting go in the Buddha's teaching is not a forceful act. It does not require great determination or any announcement. Letting go is simply not continuing to hold. When a thought comes, you do not need to chase it away. When an emotion arises, you do not need to suppress it. You only need not to follow. And when you do not follow, it will pass on its own. By now you may realize that many things you once considered important do not need to be carried anymore. Old stories, familiar worries, endless desires. You do not need to solve everything in life before you are allowed to rest. You have the right to rest now, in this very moment. The Buddha taught that human life is very short. If we spend most of it worrying, regretting, and thinking endlessly, we miss many moments of real living. But if we know how to stop, to breathe, and to let go, then even if life is not perfect, we can still live with calmness in each day. There is a very gentle truth you can feel right now. When you are not thinking, or when you are thinking very little, your mind naturally becomes wider. Inner space opens. You no longer feel compressed. And in that space you can breathe more deeply, feel more clearly, and truly rest. This closing section is not meant to give you more knowledge. It is only a final reminder that you do not need to try to become someone else. You do not need to reach any special state. If you simply allow yourself to release a little thought, even just a little, peace has already begun. If you are listening in these moments, allow yourself to not understand anything more. No need to analyze, no need to memorize. Just listen and breathe. Each inhale is life. Each exhale is letting go. And when you breathe like that, you are walking the very path the Buddha pointed to. The Buddha did not promise that life would have no difficulties, but he showed that suffering does not need to be as much as we think. Most suffering is created by the mind, and when the mind learns to stop, suffering decreases greatly. Not because life changes, but because the way we live with life has changed. Remember, you do not need to carry every thought into sleep. You do not need to finish solving everything before you are allowed to rest. You can let today end, even if it was not perfect. The Buddha taught that knowing how to stop at the right time is also a form of wisdom. If right now your mind has slowed down a little, let that happen. No need to hold it. No need to fear losing it. Just stay with that lightness. And if after this video ends, thoughts return again, that is also okay. You already know the way back. You already know that you do not need to think as much as before. Life continues. Tomorrow comes. But you do not need to carry everything in your mind. You can live more lightly. Breathe more deeply. Let go more. That is not escape. It is living in accordance with the truth of life. The final Buddha teaching in this spirit is very simple. When the mind is tired, stop. When thoughts are many, breathe. When something cannot be changed, release it. And when you release, you will see that peace has never left you. It was only covered by too many thoughts. Right now, there is nothing more to do, nowhere to go, no one to become. Just be here. Just breathe. And remember this one gentle thing. Do not think so much anymore. If you are still listening, it means your mind has slowed down far more than when you began. Not because you understood everything, but because you stopped trying so hard to understand. And that is precious. The Buddha did not teach people to understand more and more. He taught people to know when to stop. Maybe today you have thought a lot about work, about others, about the future, about things that have not even happened yet. But right now, you do not need to keep carrying all of that. You can leave it behind. No need to push it away. No need to resolve it. Just do not keep holding it. If there is a thought still circling in your mind, let it be there. Do nothing with it. Do not analyze it. Do not judge it. Simply recognize you do not need to follow it anymore. It can come and it can go. You are not that thought. Right now, there is nothing you need to do, nowhere you need to be, no question you need to answer. There is only you, here, breathing and being allowed to rest. If you feel tired, allow yourself to be tired. If you feel sleepy, allow yourself to be sleepy. No need to resist. The Buddha taught that when the mind is allowed to rest, wisdom naturally recovers, like water that becomes clear again once it is no longer stirred. You do not need to make the mind clear. You only need to stop stirring. If you can hear your breath more clearly now, let that happen. No need to adjust it. No need to try to breathe deeper or slower. Simply let the breath move in its own way. The breath knows how to care for you, even when you do nothing. Thoughts may return. That is okay. It does not mean you have failed. It only means the old habit is still there, but you already know. You already know you do not need to think so much, and that knowing alone is enough. If you are preparing to fall asleep, allow your body to become heavier. No need to hold posture. No need to control. Just let the body rest. The Buddha taught that when the body rests, the mind rests with it. If you are not asleep yet, that is also okay. Do not force yourself to sleep. Just lie there. Just listen. Just breathe. Do not expect anything to happen. Peace does not come from expectation. It comes from no longer expecting. Right now, you do not need to become a better person. No need to fix yourself. No need to change anything. Simply allow yourself to be as you are. The Buddha taught that acceptance is not surrender. It is deep understanding of the nature of life. If you can, gently repeat in your heart a simple sentence. Right now, I do not need to think so much. Not as a command, but as permission. And when you give permission, the mind will naturally know how to stop. Nothing needs to be finished. Nothing needs to be completed. This video is not a lesson, it is a pause, and you have the right to stay in this pause for as long as you want. If you fall asleep at some point, that is okay. If you stay awake until the end, that is okay. There is no right or wrong. There is only gentleness that is present. The Buddha did not require people to be mindful at every moment. He simply reminded us, whenever you are tired, return. And returning does not mean going somewhere far away. Returning is simply coming back to yourself in this moment. Right now, there is no need to think anything more. No need to do anything more. Just let everything be quiet. After so many reminders, so many perspectives on suffering, thinking, letting go, and peace, what remains is not something new. The Buddha does not offer another concept to memorize. He simply guides us back to a very simple truth. When the mind is no longer dragged away by too many thoughts, peace naturally appears. If you look carefully at the whole journey, you may see that all of the Buddha's teachings are not about changing the outer world. The Buddha did not teach that life must become perfect for suffering to end. He did not teach that you must achieve something in order to be at peace. He taught that suffering or peace depends greatly on how the mind functions. And when the mind functions in constant overthinking, even if life is full, the human being still becomes tired. You may have noticed that most of what makes you suffer in life does not come from huge events, but from very small thoughts repeated again and again. An old sentence, a familiar worry, a memory not released, a future not yet here. These are not in the present, yet they occupy so much inner space. That is why the Buddha repeated again and again, learn to return to the present, the only place where life is truly happening. Now you do not need to remember each word. You do not need to understand every meaning. If anything remains, let it be a gentle feeling that you do not need to think as much as before. Not because every problem has been solved, but because you have seen clearly that overthinking is not the way to live peacefully. Life continues. Tomorrow comes. Difficulties may still appear, but the difference is that you no longer need to carry everything in your mind. You can do what needs to be done and then set the rest down. The Buddha taught that living fully does not mean holding everything. It means knowing what to carry and what to release. Right now, if you feel your heart has slowed down a little, allow it. No need to hold it. No need to fear it will disappear. Lightness does not need to be held, because holding is exactly what makes it vanish. Let your mind be like a wide open space where everything can come and go without leaving heavy traces. Perhaps before, whenever a thought appeared, you immediately followed it, analyzing, judging, worrying, trying to control. But now you know you do not have to do that. Thoughts can come, but you do not need to go with them. Emotions can arise, but you do not need to sink into them. You can stand still and observe, like watching clouds move across the sky. If you are tired, allow yourself to be tired. If you are sad, allow yourself to be sad. You do not need to fix your state. The Buddha taught that suffering does not come from being tired or sad. It comes from not allowing those states to be present. When you allow, the mind softens, and when the mind softens, thoughts become less stubborn. Right now, there is no need to learn anything more. No need to remember anything more. You have listened enough. You have walked enough. Now it is time to rest. Rest is not the end of the journey. It is an essential part of the journey. The Buddha taught that even the mind needs rest, just as the body needs sleep after a long day. If a thought is still echoing in your head, let it be there. Do not try to chase it away. Do not try to make it disappear. Simply do not feed it more energy. Do not talk to it. Do not argue with it. Just let it pass, like a sound fading into the distance until it is gone. Now you can allow yourself to not be fully alert anymore. No need to follow every sentence. No need to understand every meaning. If your eyelids become heavy, let them be heavy. If your body wants to relax more, let it relax. There is nothing that needs to be completed. Your breath is still there. It does not need you to control it. It does not need you to think. It continues steadily, quietly, caring for you. You may notice it or not. It does not matter. The breath will continue even if you fall asleep. If you are lying down, allow your body to sink gradually. If you are sitting, allow the weight of your body to be supported. No need to hold posture. No need to correct anything. Just let the body rest in its own way. The Buddha taught that when the body is allowed to rest, the mind will rest as well. And when the mind rests, thoughts dissolve on their own, like mist disappearing when the sun rises. You do not need to dissolve the mist. You only need to stop creating new mist. Perhaps you have become used to thinking constantly, used to worrying in order to feel safe. But right now, you can try a different way. You do not need to do anything at all. No need to prepare. No need to predict. Just be here. If you want, you can gently repeat in your heart a simple sentence. Right now, I am allowed to rest. Not as a command, but as permission. And when you give yourself permission, much of the tension will naturally leave. The Buddha did not promise that if you let go of thoughts, life would no longer be difficult, but he showed that you do not need to carry difficulty all the time. There are moments when you can set it down. And those moments help you recover, so you have enough strength to face things when you need to. If right now thoughts still appear, remember, you do not need to deal with them. You do not need to answer them. You do not need to solve them. You only need not to follow them. And when you do not follow, they will gradually lose strength. Nothing needs to be finished. Nothing needs to be achieved. This video is not a lesson for you to memorize. It is a quiet space for you to rest. And you are allowed to stay in this quiet space for as long as you want. If you fall asleep at some point, that is fine. If you listen all the way to the end, that is fine. There is no right or wrong, no goal, only gentleness unfolding. The Buddha taught that peace is not a special state to chase. Peace is what remains when we stop chasing anything. And right now, you can try not chasing. Just stay. If you feel a little calmer than when you began, that is already enough. You do not need to be completely calm. You do not need perfect silence. Even a small easing is already a very great change. Life continues, but you do not need to carry it on your shoulders all day. You can set it down, you can rest, and afterward you can continue with a lighter mind. The final reminder is very simple, and it has been the reminder throughout this entire journey. When you notice you are thinking too much, stop, breathe, let go. There is no need to think more. Right now, there is nothing you need to do, nothing you need to understand, nowhere you need to go. Just let everything be quiet. From here, you do not need to do anything more. You do not need to think more, and you do not need to learn anything else. If your mind has slowed down even a little compared to the beginning, that is already enough. You do not need to remember everything you have heard, and you do not need to apply it immediately, because what is truly necessary will stay, and what is not necessary will gently leave on its own. If you are sleepy, let yourself sleep. No need to resist. No need to struggle to stay awake. And if you are still listening, then just listen in a very light way, with no expectation, not waiting for anything to happen. Peace does not come from trying harder. Peace comes when we stop trying. Thank you for giving time to yourself. Thank you for allowing your mind to rest. If you would like to keep this quiet space for the days ahead, you can subscribe to the Zenlight Wisdom channel so that whenever you need a place of stillness, you can always return here. And for now, you do not need to do anything more. Let today close in the gentlest way possible. I wish you a truly peaceful pause. And whenever you need it, Zenlight Wisdom is always here with you.